All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia. I'm the founder and CEO of Gar Capital. It is December 11th, 2024. Glad to be with you this morning. No morning note yesterday since we really didn't have much news to go by. Today was really the big event of the week, which was the Consumer Price Index or CPI. That actually came uh, in line with expectations. Let me go ahead and get that number for you. So let's get that started. US November consumer prices have a plus 0.3%. That met the consensus of 0.3%. US in November CPI excluding food and energy, that's considered the core. That was up 0.3% versus the consensus of 0.3. So just one thing the market really likes is when expectations are met. Let me make sure and see I'm not on mute. Okay. That's why I always get worried that I'm on mute. That happens so many times to me. Anyways, back to the consumer price index. Let's go over year 2.7%. If you guys have been part of the Morning Note or part of GAR Capital, let's just say for the last 2 years, we have reported the CPI numbers gradually falling. If you remember 2022, we peaked at what, 8.7% CPI? Very, very high inflation data back then. As we went through 2023 and into 2024, we were just kind of talking about CPI like crazy. Guys, inflation is taming. It's still on a downward trajectory. That's a really great sign. All signs point to go. You're going to stay long here. And I wrote a note to our members. I want to go and share this really quick. This is going to be in our Discord. Now, this part of Discord is the paid service. It's not the free service. The free service is the market blog. So I wrote here regarding the CPI numbers, and I wrote there right at 8:30, CPI met expectations is pretty much the Bears' last stand, meaning this is it. Like the Bears, people who wanted to short, they wanted a bad CPI number, a high one, because then at least would justify a downturn, at least some kind of pullback, right? Well, that you could check that off the list. Meeting expectations is pretty much the best thing you can get. Yes, we could have hoped for a little lower inflation, sure, but I mean, meeting expectations is fine. Next week is the federal rate decision. That's going to be on Wednesday. That's pretty much set in stone that we're going to get a rate cut of 25 basis points. The only caveat is that they don't. I don't know if there's any sign that they won't, but I can tell you back in 2018, we had a major change in terms of Fed policy, and they've raised rates in 2018 December, probably one of the worst trading weeks of my life, to be quite honest. So with that being said, I learned my lesson from 6 years ago that anything could happen. But for now, I say you stay long, you buy on the dips until inauguration day. The only risk here, guys, is that the Fed does not cut next week. So signs expectations say they will. So knowing what we know now, what I wrote, let's go ahead and go over the futures this morning. 84 points on the Dow right now, 114 points in the NASDAQ, S&P up 0.37. The Russell's up about 0.87%. Russell's doing great. 10-year Treasury yields 4.23%. The dollar 106.39. Imagine if that thing fell. What would stocks be? How higher would Bitcoin be? Remember, if you're basing it on the price versus dollars. The VIX down 2.75%. That's great news. We traded gold last night with our futures members. 27, I think we got in at 27.20. We gained about 100 ticks. That's about 10 points. We are long again on futures on gold. So anyone who is a futures trader, consider this a freebie. 27.30 is the entry. Shout out to Nick for filling that for me while I do the video. 27.15 is the stop. So that's about a 15-point stop. 27.50 is your TP1. We're going to go to last night's trade. Long at 27.25. We had the same TP1, 27.50, which is our expectation. Here's the chart from last night, guys. You can see our take profit levels shown, highlighted. One thing is to have a signal service, but what I really want to do is to explain things. It's important for you guys to know why things happen. I don't want to just throw things on a wall here. We want to make sure that you guys understand what you're doing. This is real money. This is not fake. Mistakes happen. And again, we want to make sure we sidestep any mistakes. All right. So 27.50 being our TP1, 27.75 TP2. and then 27,899 or 2,800 being the all-time high from October. That will be our TP3 if we get there. So if you're a day trader, we may not get to TP2 today. Maybe we do. Maybe we get a nice bump. So that's your kind of your journey right now in terms of gold. Like I said, when I said it this morning, 8:37 in the morning post CPI, basically the same setup. We're long at 27.30. We got long last night, 27.25. Take a look here. 4-hour chart. What's great is that we retested the breakout. Bulls defended. I like gold here. And now you're probably saying, Carlos, why gold of all things? Look at the NASDAQ. And I like the NASDAQ, of course. NASDAQ's one of my favorite instruments to trade. But you ever heard in school where they would say there's the right answer and then there's the best answer, or correct answer and the best answer? There's more than multiple answers. So, okay, you were reading that, Alex. Thank you. Like and subscribe. On terms of the NASDAQ, back to a 21,600. That's what I'm looking for a break. That would confirm the break of yesterday's highs. I don't want to get wicked out. Even though it was a strong CPI number, maybe we get this boost at the 9:30 open. I know we're a little earlier than usual in terms of the morning note, but I wanted to knock this out because we're doing the gold trade right now. So we are looking good. We're about 19 ticks up. Remember, there's 10 ticks for every point. We're now up 2 points, 20 ticks. We got that 20 MA on the 1 hour. So that's holding right now. We got to stop at 27.15. Maybe we want to slide that up once we get to 27.35. And just last night as well, team, when we send out our future signals, we're always updating you. Look at how many ticks we got, how we move the stop. Again, the idea is for you to succeed, not just throw stuff on the wall. So let's go ahead and update everybody. GC is now up what? 25 ticks. Remember, 25 ticks. Okay, pretty good. Again, we're still looking for 27.50 right over here, but 27.41 was overnight's high, and that's what we rejected, and that's what we got stopped out for profit. Okay, enough gold. Crude oil up 1.3%, gasoline up 1%, and gold up 0.47. Bitcoin pushing higher, 99,265 on the future side. Ethereum up about 2% in terms of Forex land. Dollar yen is up 36 pips, nothing crazy. All right, let's answer some questions. We can hear you, not on mute. Oh, thanks. Perfect. Thanks for the shout out, Alex. All right, let's take a look at Microsoft together. This is a name that I had on the watch list this week. Good thing I did not trade this because 449 broke, 449.57 hit, and then it rejected. And then I didn't want that to happen to us. So very similar to kind of like what I was looking at with gold, kind of that double top, but this is what, 1, 2, 3 triple top. That's going to break. You knock on the door enough times, you're going to break up or down. So fully expect Microsoft to push higher, 450. Same thing I spoke about earlier regarding CPI. You're pretty much buying on dips here, team, until Inauguration Day, unless the Fed doesn't cut next week. Again, I have no control over that. But yes, I expect the stock market to run higher. It's a Santa rally, team. Welcome to it. Welcome to December. What a great time to be alive and be trading, right? I love it. Let's take a look at Nike. Nike has yet to fill that gap at 93.23. I read the conference call regarding Foot Locker, and Foot Locker saying that they had some issue with Nike in terms of inventory or too much inventory. Prices are going down for goods. Does that hurt maybe Nike's margins? Just based on the chart here, we're below the 20-day moving average. That's not a good sign. But very, very important. There is a key trend line here. If we stretch this out over decades, 68.05. That's about $8 from where we are now. If you get to that level, that's pretty much your buy zone. If you really like Nike, for less than a pair of Air Force Ones, you can have a share of Nike. Not a bad deal. Disney longs. Let's look at it. Disney, we tried to get to 120 and it just rejected. So until we get to 120, not much we can do here. You are holding the 20-day currently, which is a good sign. I expect Disney to get to 120. Basically, we just were too early. Amazon. I'm kind of fading here on the 1 hour. I mean, it had such a great boost. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to wait for either 230 or this gap to fill at 214. I think Amazon's gonna go higher regardless. So yeah, maybe you can just target the all-time highs at 230. That's actually not a bad trade. I like Amazon to 230. Maybe buy some time. Might be a little expensive because next week we have a high implied volatility event, which is the Federal Reserve rate decision. And that's on Wednesday. Excuse me. Take a look at Google. We're starting to get close to that top end of that chop line channel, right around 191. That's your target. 190 calls on Google, I like. That's a really great setup. Shoot, you could do the 195 calls if you want. Again, guys, CPI came in less than expected. Santa rally, you know the drill. Let's look at Target. Target still has a gap to fill at 140.30. So maybe a break above there. No, that was filled already. We got a gap now at 151. Yep, that's right. Yep. Right at the 20-day. That needs to break. I would say maybe wait for 140 to 145. There is that upside gap, but we would need a really good retail number post Christmas to do anything with Target, in my opinion. I think you're better served with Amazon. Going to Instagram and seeing if there's any questions. Good morning, everybody. Short Microsoft, he says. Hood, up or down, 38.60. Let's look at it. Up or down? That's the ultimate question. And my ultimate answer is, what's your time frame? Right here, you have a gap to fill at 32. That would be completely healthy and fine, and actually to be expected. But like I stated earlier, the market is going to go higher. Risk assets are going to go higher. Again, thank you, soft CPI. And then Powell gives us a rate cut. It don't matter about the fundamentals anymore. It'll just be based on, excuse me, it'll just be based on, price action and demand. So long MSTR. I read that MSTR, which is MicroStrategy, is going to be added to the queues. How about that? I haven't seen any unusual options activity personally. It's an expensive one to trade. When it comes to Bitcoin proxies, our members know we like Mara or we like BITO because it's a little cheaper. MSTR is just it's a bit rich. That just turns into the high limit tables at the casino at that point. So again, above 450, yeah, that's a break. You can start targeting 550 again. Word was that MSTR was trying to convince Microsoft to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Microsoft declined. They'll come around. Adobe. I remember when I said Palantir owning Bitcoin was a big deal. That was what, in 2021, 2020? 573 on Adobe for a gap to fill here. I can't say there's a ton of edge here. I wouldn't trade this on Adobe. What do I think is going to happen? I mean, I don't have the detailed information in terms of their quarter. What I can tell you is that with that CPI, with this kind of Santa rally, odds are that Adobe is going to rise higher, possibly to 587. I would lean more up than I would down just for that fact. Shoot, we may even get that push today. You might even get to 587 on Adobe today. That would be resistance, and then we flop. That is definitely a possibility. But it's kind of hard to be bearish here when everything is kind of working out in a sense. What everyone's wanting, I guess, good price action, demand, lowering inflation, good jobs numbers. I mean, as Goldilocks as you get. The only problem is that with higher prices becomes higher expectations. 171.61 is the gap to fill on Boeing. Did it break the highs yet? If it breaks the highs above 167, the 175s I like. That's a really good setup too. I like Boeing here for a trade. That's a name we've been always about. It's a little bit of a headache in terms of the spread when you're trading it between the bid and the ask. So just be careful trading Boeing. Is Palantir going back up? It will be, yes. Absolutely. Got some profit taking, but a nice bounce this morning, up about $2. 75 will break here, more likely today. Expect that. I fully expect Palantir to get to 80 by the end of the week. No, not end of the week. 80 by the end of the year. And the only thing, again, that would probably be an issue would be Palantir off issues some debt or more shares. That's something out of our control or my control. Or if the Fed doesn't cut, again, stuff that is out of our control, or no one has control over that. So, but price target by the end of the year, yeah, I think Palantir gets to 80 by the end of the year. Could you buy long-term options on that? Yeah, but doing week to week is just so much easier. And I say that because I have DraftKings calls for December 20th. I've been holding for like 3 months, and it's just a headache because it's been in the money like 9 times. So it's not as simple as, oh, just buy time, team. It's still a learning process, even for everybody. When people think that they got it down, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. The market will humble you in a heartbeat. Let's see. Tesla options are expensive, but what level is above resistance to you? 420? Yeah. 420. That was the calls we had this week on Tesla that we hit. I'm missing the gold trade. Where are we? 735. Oh, okay. Let me go and update gold. I gotta wrap it up here, team. Where are we at? Okay. Okay, back to Tesla. Sorry about that. I try not to have any signals open when I'm doing the morning note. That's the last thing I want because then my attention is going back and forth. Yeah, break 410. I mean, all-time high trading. What do? 414 was the highs. I mean, once you break that, then you're going to start doing Fibonacci extensions. That's really up to a bias or where you want to begin. That's the problem with all-time highs. It's as high as your imagination. So kind of think of it that way. But Tesla is going to be a little expensive unless we get a stock split, which is definitely a possibility. Netflix is ripe for one. How long can the Santa rally last? Till inauguration day. That's when kind of the rubber meets the road, where we start needing to see the legislation that everyone's hoping for, whether it's deregulation, whether it's less government red tape, whether it's the tax cuts, whatever. That's when things need to start moving because we have priced in a lot of good vibes and a lot of good news. Things that expectations are just getting higher as stock prices are going higher. This is the same thing that we kind of had at the end of 2021, going into 2022, and then just takes one geopolitical event, and that's it. And then you get some massive inflation spike. Just be prepared is all. Nothing lasts forever either. It's not even about, I'm not bullish. Of course, I'm always bullish, right? The problem is we're looking in terms of time frames. How short are we looking at? By the end of the year, yes. Again, only if the Fed does not, as long as the Fed cuts. That's kind of the big deal to me. That needs to happen. If we don't, then Santa Rally is going to turn into just coal and stocking. Good morning, Carlos. Possibility of Nike and PFE explode like Walgreens. Yeah, the Walgreens stuff, I mean, that's headline based. Not exactly anything you could do. In terms of Pfizer, again, here's another rubber meets the road inauguration thing. Yes, RFK is part of the Health and Human Services. Does that affect Pfizer? Of course it does. Is that priced in now? That's kind of the issue we're having. We haven't traded Pfizer, I think, since a couple weeks, and that was a grind of a trade. So pardon my hesitation on taking on Pfizer again. Hasn't been the easiest to trade. But in terms of what is possible, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, to be quite honest. I mean, that's kind of like a shooting star in terms of the Walgreens spike. We just have to wait and see, and then hopefully you get a shot at it for the most part. AMD chart, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay. Yeah, I wrote about this yesterday on the blog. Oh, excuse me, the Market Watch channel. 127.50, kind of around that zone I was looking at. Actually, 127. I like 120 as a target. But again, with this Santa rally, even if AMD were to have some kind of stock specific, company specific issue, it's very intertwined with the semiconductor space, as we know, and those leverage type ETFs, and also the Qs. So if we start getting a push in the NASDAQ, AMD is going to push in perpetuity, let's just say. So yes, it's looking like a support level here on AMD. Absolutely. It's the lows from July. I think this is not a bad place to start looking for more upside, maybe at least to 140 by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me. I know it was a little early this morning, but I want to make sure I get caught up with our team. NASDAQ is pushing up now. Let's see if we get to 21,600. And the only concern I have is that we might tag that right at the morning open, 9:30. And if we do, that's when things get reversed rather quickly. So make sure to have your stops in place. Make sure to, have a plan. You know what you're doing. Make sure you have your targets of exactly where you want to go. If you're above 21,605, it's past the opening bell. You start looking at 650 as a nice target with a stop around, 575. Gives you about a 2-to-1 risk reward ratio, and then you can slide your stops as you go. If you like this kind of explanations, make sure to join our server. We also teach one-on-one. Again, it's all about timing. I got some students today as well and tomorrow that I'm teaching. So schedule gets a little crazy. But I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for your patience again. Have a great rest of your morning, and I will see you tomorrow. Cheers all.